Episode 2. When God is silent, when Michael Ijoma remarried, it was hailed as divine restoration. The tabloids called it God's second chance. The congregation rejoiced as if heaven itself had rewritten the story. The wedding was small but elegant. A pastel dream at the Oriental Hotel, Lagos, attended by the city's spiritual elite. The bride, Chika, was everything imagined of an angel, quiet, soft-spoken, and unassuming. Even though she was in the choir at Heaven's Gate Assembly International, she also worked as a church administrator. She never spoke out of turn, always smiling, as though joy was her default setting. She looked like a balm after the storm. Obedience wrapped in beauty. Michael told himself she was the wife he deserved, not like Tara, who questioned him and glowed too brightly. Chika was simplicity itself, the kind of woman who would never embarrass him. Their honeymoon in Cape Verde was a performance of redemption. Every photo captured on the beach found its way to Instagram with Bible verses about restoration and grace. He watched the comments pile up. God is faithful. Your story inspires us. A true man of resilience. Each word fed the hunger in him, the need to be admired, to be envied. When they returned to Lagos, they moved into a glass-walled mansion in Banana Island, overlooking the lagoon, calm water that hid restless depths. Every morning he prayed loudly in the living room, pacing in his white kaftan, hands lifted high. Chika sat silently, eyes lowered, murmuring amens. They were the embodiment of perfection and peace. Sometime later, the air between them grew thinner. Michael became even more meticulous, obsessed with control. He dictated her clothes, her friends, her tone. "You're not Tara," he'd remind her gently. "Don't ever try to be. You're better because you know how to submit." Chika would nod. Always nod. He told her what to post on social media. He chose the angle of their photos. When guests visited, she served quietly and retreated. She was the perfect wife, humble, graceful, content. The following months, Michael began to drink, and when he returned home, he reeked of alcohol and rage disguised as righteousness. If dinner wasn't warm enough, he'd stare at her for a long time, his jaw tightening. "Do you know how much pressure I'm under? Do you know what it takes to keep my empire running?" She never replied. She'd lower her head and whisper, "I'm sorry." Then he became angrier. The first time he hit her, it was almost gentle. A backhand slap that came after a misunderstanding about a misplaced document. The sound shocked him more than it did her. She fell quiet, not out of fear, but calculation. He apologized, prayed over her, and then cried. Chika held him while he wept, her hand brushing his hair. "You're just stressed," she said softly. "You need rest." Somehow she knew exactly the kind of man she had married. Michael's empire, Kingdom Logistics, was thriving on the surface, but underneath the gleam there was rot. The company handled contracts for oil transport and relief materials, lucrative deals funded by politicians and padded with false invoices. He laundered money through church accounts and foreign charity partnerships. The more he gave to the church, the more untouchable he appeared. Chika seemed to have known, but she pretended everything was okay. Each week, new figures arrived at their home, men in Agbada carrying briefcases. Conversations in hushed tones stretched late into the night. When she entered the room, they would stop talking. Michael would laugh, kiss her forehead, and say, "Business, my dear. Men's matters." She smiled and left. But then she eavesdropped. By early 2024, cracks began to show. One of his accountants disappeared after a business trip to Dubai. A junior manager was arrested by EFCC for financial irregularities. Michael called for a crisis meeting and blamed everyone. "They're jealous," he said. "When you carry destiny, people target you." He believed his own words. Somehow, Chika saw the fear creeping in, the way his hands trembled when he checked his phone, the sleepless nights pacing the balcony, the secret calls at 2 a.m. One night, while he showered, she opened his laptop. Hidden folders, encrypted accounts, offshore companies, code-named Kingdom Harvest International and Divine Carriers Ltd. She copied everything onto a flash drive and slipped it under her Bible. Days later, he mentioned a new investment, foreign partners from Germany who wanted to expand his shipping empire. He was elated. "This is the breakthrough," he said. "God is compensating me for all my pain." She smiled, hesitantly. "Germany?" she asked. "Yes, a company called Nordtech Maritime. They're sending a consultant to Lagos next month. We'll make history, Chika. Watch and see. But you need to be careful. Not every bait is worth the bite." "Look at her," he teased. "What do you know about international businesses and baits?" Chika shrugged her shoulders and left, a bit agitated. She knew that any shown disagreement meant taking a good beating. She was tired of the violence. Over the following weeks, the business proposal yielded fruit. Websites, corporate emails, boardroom Zoom calls with his German counterparts. Michael was excited, and so were a few other members of his management team. By August 2024, he had transferred nearly $5.8 million into Nordtech's investment fund. Chika sat beside him as he typed the last confirmation. She looked sad, but seemed to have resigned to fate. He kissed her cheek and said, "You see, when a man walks with God, even his enemies become financiers." "Huh, huh," she nodded. "Amen." He danced away upstairs to the bedroom. That evening she prayed for the investment and made a great dinner. She kept staring at him across the dinner table. She wanted to talk, but felt sorry. Or almost. About 3 weeks later, after a charity gala at Echo Hotel, the couple returned home to find a letter slipped under their door. It was from his former accountant, the one who vanished. H picked up the letter and opened it. 3 lines only. "They know. Don't trust anyone, especially the woman beside you." Michael's eyes darkened. He crumpled the letter, threw it into the fireplace, and turned to her. "Did you see this before me?" "See what?" she said softly, her face calm. He stared at her for a long moment, searching. Then he smiled, too wide, too brittle. "People will do anything to destroy the godly." That night he locked his phone and slept with the house keys under his pillow. The wife was calm. She didn't ask why. From then on, paranoia consumed him. He accused his staff of betrayal. He changed passwords, moved money, and canceled meetings. He fired his driver for spying. He even banned Chika from visiting the office. The more he tried to protect himself, the faster his empire crumbled under his feet. And Chika, the quiet, watchful Chika, just kept praying. Not long after, the EFCC had begun to dig into kingdom logistics. A whistleblower had leaked internal documents, falsified shipping manifests, tax evasion records, and suspicious foreign transfers. The investigators didn't yet know the full picture, but the pieces were aligning. Michael didn't sleep much anymore. He stopped going to the office, turning their home into a war room. Laptops, folders, coffee mugs scattered across the marble table. He shouted into phones, threatened lawyers, cursed subordinates. Chika always served him tea and nodded. "Do you believe they can take me down?" he asked one evening, pacing. "No," she whispered. "No one can take you down," he exhaled, almost reassured. "Exactly, because I'm chosen. I'm not like other men. They can't touch an anointed man of God." But beneath his voice, fear trembled. He began drinking again, brandy before breakfast, whiskey at night. Sometimes he'd grab Chika by the wrist mid-argument, shouting, "You think I don't know what people are saying? That I'm finished? That I've lost everything because of you?" She never resisted. She'd simply smile, tears glinting under her lashes. "I'm with you, Michael, always." Then, when he left for meetings, she'd make some calls. To her parents and then to Felix. The final blow came on a humid Thursday in March. That morning, Michael woke to 37 missed calls. His head pounded. The air felt too still. Outside, the sirens began faintly, then grew louder. By 9 a.m., EFCC officials flooded his compound in Banana Island. The gates slammed shut. "Mr. Michael Ijoma, you are under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to defraud the federal government of Nigeria." He stood frozen, barefoot in a rumpled shirt, disbelief hardening on his face. "This is a mistake. I am a man of God." They ignored him, turning the mansion inside out. When they asked for his wife, she was nowhere to be found. Her wardrobe was empty, her passport gone, and her phone switched off. By evening, it became clear that Chika had vanished. Along with every trace of their joint accounts, the press descended. Scandal rocks kingdom logistics. Pastor entrepreneur under probe. Wife disappears amid fraud arrest. Michael screamed at the headlines. She was innocent, he told anyone who'd listen. But deep down, something twisted, a cold realization that he'd been outplayed. He spent 2 nights in EFCC detention before bail was granted. When he returned home, the silence was unbearable. The house smelled like dust and betrayal. He stormed into the study, yanked open drawers, and found only a note on the desk, one line written in Chika's elegant hand. "When God is silent, perhaps he's giving the devil enough rope." For a moment, the room spun. He tore the note to pieces and scattered it across the floor. Then he sank into the chair and laughed, a hollow, hysterical sound. In the days that followed, more secrets unraveled. His offshore accounts gone, the Nord Tech investors untraceable, the company website deleted. Felix's name appeared on an Interpol watch list, but only briefly, then vanished. Chika and Felix had flown to Munich on a private flight a day before the EFCC raid. The tabloids called it Heist of the Holy Man. Nord Tech was Chika and Felix. Together they created the entity. A few months after her wedding, she had reconnected with her old university boyfriend, Felix, a financial analyst who worked in Berlin. When they met online, she told him everything about Michael, the abuse, manipulation, and criminal deals. Felix then offered an idea. What if you let him hang himself? So they created a fake investment front, fed him promises of millions, and made him expose his assets to them voluntarily. Chika was no criminal at first, but she was tired of her husband's constant madness. Over the following months, the deception grew legs. Fake websites, corporate emails, boardroom Zoom calls with European accents. Michael never suspected. His greed blinded him. Each week, Felix sent her updates. The Nord Tech operation was nearly complete. Michael had exposed every hidden fund, his Dubai accounts, his offshore shell companies, even the emergency dollar stash under his office floorboard. By the first week of November 2023, Michael's empire was nothing but ashes. His properties were seized. Those who once knelt before him now crossed the street to avoid him. But his pride, that toxic monument, refused to fall. He blamed everyone. The devil, his enemies, the media, even Tara, especially Tara. "She cursed me," he muttered one evening, pacing the remnants of his office. "She put this on me when she left." The EFCC case dragged on for months. New evidence kept surfacing. The prosecutors presented photos, transfers, and digital trails that mapped his corruption like arteries. By February 2025, the court delivered its verdict. 5 years in prison. Hard labor. The cameras captured his expression as the sentence was read. No tears, no remorse, only defiance. He raised his chin and said, "This is persecution. You can cage a man, but not his destiny, not his spirit." The tabloids ate it up. Fallen pastor still boasts divine immunity. At the Karikari maximum prison, he adjusted quickly. His arrogance became his armor. Inmates called him Pastor Mike. He held prayer meetings, quoted scriptures about redemption, and claimed he would rebuild bigger upon release. But when the lights went out at night, he wrote long letters, not to lawyers or friends, but to Tara. He wrote with venom and nostalgia in equal measure, every line bleeding ego. "Tara, I hope you're proud of yourself. You think you've moved on, but you're still mine. The law says you're still my wife. You're still the mother of my children, and I will deal with your foolishness when I'm out. Don't forget, I made you who you are." He folded the letter carefully, placed it in an envelope addressed to her residence, and handed it to a guard. As the cell door shut behind him, Michael Ijoma smiled faintly, a man broken but not humbled. Outside, the rain began to fall.